Hi. It's me again, Genevieve. How you guys doing? Welcome. We are finally on our last step into closing the gap of your creative space. This cohort has been amazing. There have been so much that we have learned, there have been so much that we have talked about, we've covered here in our recorded classes and also in our live sessions. It's just been an amazing road trip all through. Actually, I had fun. And I am very sure that you guys have. I hope you had fun actually. And I also hope that you learned one or two things, most importantly, because the idea of all of this is for you to learn something and be able to implement those things in your journey. So let's go into the last class for today. Well, for this cohort, basically, let's go into that. We talked so much about our creative gap. We talked so much about our creative formats. We talked about platforms. Finally, let's get into the a little bit complicated part of it, metrics and understanding your growth. Now, there is not much formula here, no mathematics here, but really, we're just going to look at what these numbers means. Basically, let's put them into words and see what they mean to us. So when you create content, you are speaking your truth, but every platform has their own language, like we already talked about last week, right? We talked about how Instagram has their own language, right? TikTok has their own language. They speak differently. But some people always mistake it, thinking that, oh, sometimes what works on TikTok can work on Instagram. True, but not all cases. So you need to understand how Instagram talk and how TikTok talk, and then you just answer them basically. And the point of this particular class is to make sure that you actually know what to listen to, you actually know what to look out for, and then when you see what you're looking for, you know exactly what that means, because basically all of those numbers is actually telling you something, right? So when it comes to metrics, right? Metrics is not just about the numbers. It's just kind of a way the platform is telling you what's happening, is communicating with you, is letting you know that, oh, this is what your audience are leaning into, like how we call it, our public general public, right? Just telling you this is what the general public thinks about this is what they're thinking about you, your content, and what you put out there, right? It's just kind of like a feedback, right? On TikTok, watch time is the priority, is gold. It's basically what everybody cares about, because if people stay on your video long enough, the algorithm knows that it is worth showing to more people, which is why TikTok encourages you to post videos of 1 minute. And then when you post videos, you even get eligible to actually getting rewarded, right? So TikTok cares so much about that, about your watch time, right? So 1 minute, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, all the way, right? TikTok will always reward that all the time. Now, on Instagram, it's quite different. Saves and share actually is what will drive your growth, right? It's very important to have like lots of shares, saves, and lots of shares on your content. And this basically tells Instagram that your content is actually valuable and people need to see it even more, right? We kind of touched like the peripherals this last week. We kind of looked into it a little bit last week, and now we're just looking more into the numbers and what they actually mean. So some people see metrics as kind of something that they should be chasing. People say, oh, I want to have a lot of reach, I want to have a lot of likes, I want to have a lot of followers, I want to have a lot of all of this. These are not things you can fake, really, because it's not the metrics is not a fakeable number. It's something that is showing you the proof that, oh, this is exactly what is going on. So, and it's kind of like a feedback loop. Kind of tells you that, oh, this is what's happening, this is what you're doing right, this is what you're doing right, this is what people are thinking about your content. All of that is a feedback loop, and it kind of signals you to know how you can refine your voice, how you can make something better, how you can adjust certain things on your content, because If people are not saving your content and they are on Instagram, and that content is on Instagram, it means that your content is not valuable enough. And sometimes when you even shoot longer videos or shorter videos on TikTok, you realize that they actually do a lot more better. Sometimes. But and then there are other key things that actually matter when it comes to defining these metrics, these key metrics in on these platforms. Now let's look into the fact that this is a kind of a loop, right? Know how we said that metrics is feedback. We're sending feedback from the platform, from the general public, and this is exactly what we're getting from you, right? So it's kind of like a circle, right? Where you create, the platform will distribute, and then the metrics will reflect the impact, and then you can go back and refine your work, and then you create again, and then you set the platform to distribute it, and the metrics will come in to tell you what exactly is your creation, what did it actually do, what is the impact of what you have done, and then you go back again, you refine it, and then you go back again and recreate. So and so and so. The loop is how good creators become very, very great. It's not by guessing, but you have to listen, right? Let's go a little bit more deeper into the core metrics per platforms, right? There are very, very key metrics that every platform actually has. As we already said, that watch time on TikTok is very, very important, and saves and show on Instagram are very, very important, right? So not all platforms value the same things. To grow, you need to understand which metrics actually matter most on each platform. Otherwise, you'll be chasing the wrong signals. Now let's go into it. So let's go into TikTok. What does TikTok algorithm love? Right? We keep hearing algorithm all the time. So I've kind of simplified it into what exactly they're looking at for. The first thing is watch time and retention. TikTok wants to make sure that your content is something that people are watching over and over and over and over and again. So if you have a short content, people are watching that short content over and over, over and over and over and over and over again. That's why sometimes short content actually do well, right? If it is a long content, people actually watch it to the end. That is what TikTok actually cares about, right? It lets TikTok know that, oh, people actually enjoy your content, and because of that, TikTok will continue to push your content out there to more people and make other people to see what you are doing, right? So that is kind of like the idea of TikTok. That's what the watch time and retention actually means. How long does somebody stay on that particular content, and did they, watch it multiple times if it was short, and did they stay long enough if it was long, right? And the next one is replace. Now, replace is why a lot of TikTok influencers love to do short content. They love to do 10-second videos. You even see the situation where someone will make a video and then they will make it loop through. So I think we watch to the end. You don't even know when you have watched to the beginning. You don't even know when it enters the beginning again. I mean, we are now kind of like skilled to kind of identify it now because we are all TikTokers. We watch a lot of TikTok, but that's why they do that. That's why they always loop it, so that before you even know that you are probably watching it again, I've seen something like that. Oh, is it the same thing? So because that replays are very, very important. On TikTok, they pay you so much for the replay. Once your account becomes monetized, you get paid hands-only for your replays. Very, very, very important, especially if it's a long video. At least a minute long, they pay you so well, because it just shows that people are watching your video more than once. So your content is very, very addictive, and that would definitely increase your growth. That would definitely now mean that you are going to grow. Another thing is shares, right? TikTok also cares about the shares, right? TikTok, when people are able to send your videos to their friends, especially out of the platform or even within the platform, maybe they're sharing it themselves to another person as a message, right? Or they're sharing somebody on WhatsApp, or sharing somebody on Instagram, where you can copy the link, or there's even a share icon now they've created those things, because why they are doing that is because if you share that particular content to somebody else, it means the person is going to come back to TikTok to come and watch it, or the person is even still on TikTok, it means the person is going to stay a little bit longer on TikTok, because what these platforms are, they are businesses, they're people businesses, and they want you to continue to stay on a platform as long as possible, and then they will reward creators that enable people to actually stay on the platform as long as possible, right? TikTok is kind of like an addiction to some people, because they creators are becoming so much better at creating good content to keep them on the platform, right? That's why the platform becomes addictive, why some people have social media addiction. But if the creators are not creating good content and making people to want to stay, they won't stay on that platform at all. They will just bounce, right? So the next is comments, right? The more conversation that people have under the video, the more TikTok will continue to distribute it. TikTok really love, content that has like a lot of comments, right? Because TikTok comment section is a whole different, it's a whole different planet. Like there's a whole lot of things that happen now that we even introduced this sticker situation of pictures in comment. Oh my god, it's absolutely amazing, right? TikTok comment section is a different planet, and TikTok encourages people to do that. That's why I think in our class 3 or class 4, I did mention us actually creating content that make people actually want to have a conversation, or create content that actually starts a conversation. Because at the end of the day, all of these things, all of those things that we already touched on at the beginning of the class, will come here and play, right? So that when you are looking back and when you're looking back at the feedback, you're trying to take back the feedback of what you have created, you're like, oh, this is why this did not work. Oh, this is why this not. And you also understand why those things has to be done. Why you need to get your anchors correctly, why you need to get your visuals correctly, why you need to make sure that you understand who you are as a person. Because if you understand who you are as a person, you can create engaging content that can last, even if it's short, no matter how short it is, people want to watch it over and over and over again. Or you can make a video that is long and people will actually watch it to the end. Right, and people can even replay it, even save it to continue watching it over and over and over again, or even share it to their friends so that their friends can also come on TikTok, or even send a comment, because it's very, very important for that platform. So once you're able to integrate all of those key things that we have highlighted previously in the previous classes, here you will see how it will actually start reflecting. So when you see the watch time is high, you know that, oh yes, that means people actually love my content. When you see the replays that are going up, because there is a part on TikTok that shows you how many times somebody replayed your content, or how many times it was replayed. That's the watch time. You will see them, so you will know how long, how addictive is your content. And then your shares, how much people actually like your content that are actually sharing. That way, I think everybody can see that, as well as your comments. You see if your video or your content is actually developing or creating some kind of conversation to be had, among people. So the key takeaway here is that on TikTok, the goal is to be stickiness, right? It's stickiness basically, and you keep people watching and talking about your content. So how sticky can you make your content? How can you make it so attractive that everybody wants to just really watch that video? How much can you grab their attention and keep them on your platform as long as possible, or on your particular content as long as possible, so people can continue talking about your content, can share your content, and even keep watching it over and over and over again. That is basically the key takeaway on TikTok. Now, when it comes to Instagram, what the algorithm loves for Instagram is, one, shares and saves. Shares and saves is the strongest signal on Instagram, right? The more shares you have, the more saves you have, the more Instagram will continue to prioritize your content. You see your content on Explore page. You can barely find the content on Explore page that doesn't have up to a minimum of 50 shares. I'm just saying it's a minimum of 50 shares. You might not even see any content that has less than 50 shares. But I'm just saying a minimum of 50 shares, right? Sometimes you might see most of the content I've seen on Explore are always 100 and above. So it's very, 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 very unlikely to find anyone below, 100 shares. But in case you see, there's always at least a minimum of 50 shares. If there's not enough shares, trust me, there's a lot of saves on that particular content. All the content on the Explore page are extremely saved and extremely shared. Now on Instagram, they have a small box some people have it in the top right or in the middle of their Explore, where you see the highest liked, highest saved, highest shared content by your own followers, people that you follow. It will show you either on the right, on the box on the top, on the top left or in the middle. So people are in the bottom right and bottom left. But there's a box. You always know the box because you always see people that you are following in those boxes. You always know. So that's the box that has been dedicated for you. Some people have it on the top, some people have it in the middle, some people have there. But it's always one box you get. You get your content to be there. So still, because Instagram wants people to actually see your content. That's the whole point of Instagram. But if your followers are not seeing your content, but maybe because they're following a lot of people or because your content is not actually good enough. But if your content is good, it will definitely pop up in that particular part. But and then if your followers love it and even more people even love it, you can be anywhere in that explore page, because that's what the whole goal for Instagram is, to be on the explore page, right? So another one is the engagement rate, right? So likes, comments, shares, and follows divided by followers is the formula for your engagement rate, right? A lot of people have a lot of people have a very, very, very high engagement rate. But it's like right now the way the way Instagram is kind of positioned, right? Without a lot of followers, you can actually get a lot of engagement. But now here is the tricky part, right? Here's the tricky part, that you can actually build that for you can actually have like a very, 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 very high engagement rate, but doesn't necessarily mean that your content is actually good. What does that mean is that you see some people that have content on Instagram, especially on Instagram. It's also on TikTok, but on Instagram it's quite different. The way we actually calculate is quite different, because when you come to Instagram, you see someone that have hit 1 million views, right? On that 1 million views, they have almost 10,000 likes there, 200 and something or 2,000 comments, and probably 5,000 shares, and their followers is probably like 1K or 2K or 3K. That's almost a 15% engagement rate. That's over, in fact, if I'm not being mistaken, that's over that, because you have to count the likes, the comments, the shares, and the save. The views doesn't necessarily matter that much, but when you calculate all of this, it's almost a 15% engagement rate if that person is have 1,000 followers, right? So with that high engagement rate, it already, what that signals to you is that, oh, people actually love this content. People are actually connected to this particular content. They want more of this content. A lot of people, what they realize is that content that went viral, might not be like their usual content, right? It might not be what is trending at the time. And so their next content now kind of flops and drops to like probably 1,000 views, which is what flops the entirety of your own algorithm. So that is why at the end of the day, you really don't want to go viral like that on Instagram, especially if you're going viral for content that is not necessarily what there's a content you just post because you're like, you never know, right? But you don't want to go viral for those you never know content. You want to go viral for I want to be intentional about it, right? So that's kind of it. So you want to have a very, very balanced engagement rate, at least a minimum of 5% engagement rate at all times, or as worst comes to worst, you want it to be 3, right? Anything below 2 or 1, that's or below 0 points, that is really bad. You really want to keep it 5. 5 is a very, very, very hard to get number, right? But you want to get a 5, you want to get a 10. 10 is also very, very hard, but then you want to keep it at 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, right? So that means your followers has to balance with your likes and your shares. If you have about 2,000 followers, you want to be having like at least say 3,000 likes. You want to get like 200 comments. You want to get like 20 saves or maybe 50 saves and maybe 40 shares. But then you add all of that up, it's almost 5 or 4 thereabouts. So that's kind of like where you want to keep it. So you want to check it yourself. You want to go and check your engagement rate, and you want to maintain that engagement rate throughout the entirety of your post. You want to have it that it's always in the same range. Your engagement rate might not be the same for every single post, but you want to make sure that it's the same range. Because when you check, that is exactly why I said a lot of people that do not care about your followers, because they do not matter, right? They don't matter, because if your content is getting a lot of views, you get a lot of likes, a lot of shares, a lot of saves, right? It's great. It means your engagement rate is very, very good. As a creator, if you want to monetize yourself as a creator, that is very, very, very great. When followers comes in, is for influencing or having like a very very strong community building. So yeah, but point is, if you are just looking out of how to like validate yourself as a very good creator, want to be sure that you are actually creating very good content, look at your engagement rates. From your engagement rate, you're going to know, if you have anything below 2, as long as not below 0, sorry, as long as not below, yeah, 0, I guess 0 is not a bad number. As long as not below 0, you're kind of good. So you want to have that 1 to 5, but if you're really putting the work, you want to really aim for 3 to 5. So the more followers you get, the kind of like it kind of balances your engagement rate. Don't worry, we can talk about that in our live session. Now the next one is our reach and impressions. So your reach and impressions are very very important. It also shows that people actually care about your content. Your content is going out, and Instagram is actually pushing out your content. What you always want to have is that your reach is actually getting much more further than your original followers. Right? You want to get even more reach than you already have, and you always want to have at least, at least you can try to have at least 30 people, 30% of your reach from your followers. Like that is like where everybody aims to get, right? Because a lot of people have 70% of reach from their followers, and like the 30 is from outside. That just means that your content is only your followers are actually just interacting with your content, and people are not seeing it out there. And when being pushed to other people, they actually do not actually engage. They skip over it, right? So all these numbers actually matter because they inform you, they tell you, they give you feedback. They tell you, okay, this is what's happening to you, this is what's not happening to you. So you want to make sure that at all times that your reach is kind of above your followers as much as possible. You want to keep it above your followers all the time. It's even a good thing if your followers are not even seeing your content, and it's only other people that see your content all the time. Is actually where you want to be. You even want to make sure that 20% of your followers are seeing it. Now the best place to be is 50-50, and where your reach is like impossibly high. I'm talking about in the 100,000s, right? And then you have 50-50, right? That is always that's the aim. But when you have like below 10k or below 5k, you really want to make sure that your own followers reach or are getting just 30%, right? The rest 70% is coming from outside, because it shows to us that people actually care about your content. Another very important thing on Instagram, very important metric you should also pay attention to on Instagram, is story interaction. Your story interaction is so important, right? You want to make sure that your story has a lot of views, a lot of views, a lot of views. Always aim for a very good number on story interaction. When you know their story is actually doing very great, is at least 10% of your following count is actually watching your story. That's when you know you're doing a good job, right? If you have more than 10% on watching your Instagram stories, you're doing a fabulous job, trust me. So if you have 1,000 followers, at least 100 of them to watch your Instagram stories, like that's amazing. Like that is where we all want to go to. But unfortunately, a lot of us are not them. Me myself included, right? Because story interaction actually shows that people actually care about you. Like your people that even follow you, they care about you, they care about your word, they care about everything you do. They are really intentional about you. They chose you, and they are staying with you and just like following through everything that you're doing. So you always want to make sure that that is happening. If you do have 5%, that is also not a bad number, right? It's not also a bad number, but we all aim for 10% of our following count. So always interact with us. So yeah, that is basically what those are the key metrics in the core metrics in on Instagram. So the key takeaway here is that on Instagram, the goal is depth and value, right? For you to get for you to be able to, for people to actually save your content and share your content has to be of very very high value, right? I don't think anybody here has saved their content on Instagram that's just because it's funny. We are sharing content just because it's funny, but when it comes to saving it, right, it's more than funny, it's entertaining, it's educating, you are learning, there's something valuable you're getting from it. Is that it's an inspiration, is that you're just keeping it for something for rainy days, whatever, right? It has to be very, 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 very valuable to that person for them to actually save it, right? Everything on Instagram is all about depth, all about value. That's why I keep saying, I said it the last class, that Instagram is really about the aesthetic. The more you're able to like really show people that, oh, this thing it looks good, People will save it for inspiration. People will save it for later. That's exactly what you want to do. Um, so on Instagram, the goal is depth and value so that people find your content worth saving, sharing, and interacting with regularly. So that is kind of what you want. The next is the flow of creation. This is the power where we kind of bring everything that we have learned so far together and find a way, not even find, just see how everything kind of flow. Right? Creativity doesn't just stop when you hit post, right? We before you even hit the post, we already gone through all the processes that go into reaching the post. You got to know yourself, you have to do the work, you have to put the research in, you have to have your visuals correct, you have to do the content and make sure that they're correct. You have to edit it, then choose the platform you want to put it up, because that content that you've created is specifically for a particular platform. Then choose the platform, then hit post. But that is not where it's stuck, right? Every piece of content is part of a cycle, right? Where you understand this cycle, you kind of stop guessing and you start growing with intention. Because when you know that, okay, you want to test the content, right? You put out you create your content, you have a new visual style, a new anchor format, you develop that particular content for a while, and then you put it online. You may see that the metrics is not really adding up on Instagram, but when you put it on TikTok, it's working. So you understand that, oh, this is the TikTok content and all of that, back and forth, right? So this cohort and class is supposed to help you to not make those guessing work anymore. So you don't have to guess whether this content is going to do well on Instagram or do well on TikTok. You already know what's going to do well on Instagram. You already know what's going to do well on TikTok. You just need to know. All you just need to know is how will you know how well this content is doing, and what exactly do you need to optimize in this content for you to become better and for you to keep moving and for you to hit your own goal, whatever that goal may be, right? So that is kind of what this course is all about, right? Yeah, so now the circle of creation. The first one is to find your muse. Right? I think this is a 2 week 3 class, right? So find your muse, right? This is where everything starts, right? Where you actually know who you are as a creator. What content style do you want to do? What are your passions? What are your personality? And without clarity on this, everything else will just feel scattered. And that is the very, 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 very truth, right? Even if you know how to create a very good content, you don't know who you are, it comes out still off, it comes out still generic. So you need to know who you are first. You need to answer those questions. You need to know the kind of content style you want to do based on your own particular strengths. When you're even working on getting those strengths even much more better, right? You need to know your passion, you need to know your personality, you need to know what actually makes you stand out in the market, right? What is your own selling point. You need to identify what those things are, and then have that clarity before you move on, so that you do not get scattered, right? You don't start saying or doing things that you're not supposed to do. The next thing is to adapt to the platform, right? If you're using TikTok, you're using Instagram, you adapt to that platform. You know that Instagram, TikTok like raw content, raw, quick, playful content, while Instagram prefer polished, aesthetic content and value-packed content. So you give them those platform what they want. You hand it over to them. You're not giving Instagram what TikTok wants. You're not giving TikTok what Instagram wants. You're not like, I want to just see what's going to happen. You're not doing that anymore, because that's waste of effort, and that is going to affect. Right there, I already told you, engagement rate is going to be affected on Instagram if you don't maintain a certain range of engagement throughout. And so you don't want to mess that up. That also applies to TikTok, right? The engagement rate also applies to TikTok. But on TikTok, it doesn't really affect your future as much, right? Unlike Instagram, that it does affect your future, right? But TikTok, it doesn't really affect it. But it still matters, because when brands want to work with you, they will always look at your engagement rate and they will calculate it for you. It's something that anybody can calculate for you. Especially on TikTok, it's easy to calculate. And if a brand wants to have like an engagement rate of between 3% to 2%, they want that engagement rate because of the kind of content or kind of campaign that they have. They might choose the. But if they see that you don't have that engagement rate, or if it's above 100, it's about 10 or it's 15%, and you are below 5,000 followers especially on TikTok, they already know that you're just creating viral content that is not actually connecting to anybody. So that is not what you want. So right, so the story can stay the same. You can still say the same thing you want to say, but the way you're going to package it for each platform is going to be very, very, very different, right? Another thing is for you to put it out there, right? when you choose your anchor format, which is reels, carousel, stories, TikTok, whatever you want to do, you have to stick to that storytelling style so that your audience will know what to expect. Because again, consistency is recognition. You need them to recognize that, oh, this, whenever they see something like this, they know that it's you that actually created, because you need to make sure that you stick to that. That's why I keep mentioning anchor format a lot. Anchor format are very, very, very important, because you need to make sure that though that way you have decided to go out, that is where you're going to continue to go out. But and it has to be very, very, very intentional to you. Please, 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 if you can't remember what anchor format is, please go back to your notes or go back to the class previously. I think it's week 2 or week 3. I think it's week 3. So go back again and watch that class again. It's very important for you to know your anchor format. Week 3, I believe, yes, week three, I believe, is actually one of the best classes. It's actually, it is a very value packed class. Sorry, I'm really diverting here, because I feel like, and all of us, we just came through some of those things, some of those details, because they were very, very, I tried to really break them down, spread them and stretch them as much as I could. I stretched the things that I felt like I shouldn't stretch. I still stretched them. I was like, you guys need to know all of this things, because you would think that, okay, it's when you know what you want to create, when you know how you want to create it, that's just all. You still need to go into do the nitty-gritty work, right? When we talked about storytelling, when we talked about visual cues, when we talked about the things that matter to certain content, the way certain content has to be portrayed, the intentionality and the importance of that intentionality has to be there. Right? The scripting, the flow has to be there, right? You need to develop it, and you need to develop it according to who you are, right? You cannot develop it based on what everybody else is doing, but according to who you are. So it's very, very important. Please, again, if at any point maybe you can't remember anchor format, please go back to week 3. It's very, very important, and so that you can still refresh your memory about consistency and recognition, because that is a very, very important part of creation, right? Very, very important part of creation. Nothing like consistency, nothing like recognition. Like I already said, if a Google ever comes out, like we already know that Google always hovers more than Mike, have a big girl with a big body talking with her. We always know that's a recognition. That's a recognizable pattern, right? I know other people that also holding mic and talking shit. People will be born, but yes, there are other people, but there's a way he does it that is different from every other person and makes him stand out. And that is exactly what you need to go and figure out by yourself, because that is for him. The next is to measure feedback, right? So you have to look at the metrics, right? And you look at the metrics right. Look at the right metrics. A lot of us, as I said, everything I've said on this class has not mentioned anything about views. I know I mentioned views, but you see how views are not important, right? Because having a lot of views doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna. I mean, if you have views, you're gonna definitely get likes. Right, but you can't have likes without views, right? So, and sometimes when you have views, you might not get any of these things at the same time, right? They kind of work hand in hand. But you have to understand what is the most important thing that you need to pay attention to, right? So you need to know what to see, and know the right questions to ask, because I think in the first class I talked about feedback, knowing how to ask questions and knowing the right questions to ask. Because if you go on TikTok, your question will be, oh, if my video go viral, I'm not on 200 jail. Where am I? Right? So a lot of people asking that question, right? People ask that question a lot, but yes, you are in the 200 jail, but why are you in the 200 jail? Is it because of people only watching your video for 1 second or 2 seconds? There are a lot of us actually watch content for 1 second and 2 seconds. We all know ourselves. We do watch content for 1 second and 2 seconds. Are people watching our content for 1 second and 2 seconds? Now, why are people not watching it up to 3 seconds? Why are people not watching it up to 5 seconds? What is the reason? That is exactly why you are still in the 200 jail. That's why you are still in the 1000 jail. You need to ask yourself the right questions. You need to ask the platform with the metrics that you're seeing the right questions, so that you can make the right correction. Also, you can also ask questions like on Instagram, like did they save and did they share my content? My content, is this savable? Is it shareable? Do people share my content? People save my content, right? And then also another very important question to ask is, did comment on into conversation where people ask a question, you answer the question, or they're just giving you fire emoji back to back, fire emoji, she's hot, oh beautiful, oh that. But that's not the kind of comments you want. Which is why in the beginning of this class, I think in week two, I mentioned very importantly that you have to forget about people telling your followers to for comments and like or whatever. You don't even want them to do that. You really don't want them to just come and like randomly because of you answer to write like randomly. You want them to comment important things that are reflective to your content, because believe it or not, the algorithm knows, the algorithm is paying attention to every single thing. The algorithm is paying attention to every single thing, every right. So if your content, your comment section is filled with fire emojis back to back, love emojis, heart emojis, monkey emojis, but it's gonna know that this is just your friends, your personal friends, just supporting you, and it's not going to do anything for you. So you don't want that. I keep saying it, you don't want it, because the matrix is like your audience is basically talking back to you without actually saying anything to you. Those numbers actually matter, and you need to look through them carefully. Right, the last part of the creations circle is to refine and repeat. Right, you can never make the best. Your best content is yet to be made. Right, your next content is going to be better than your current content style. Right, your best content is yet to be made. So you need to use the data to adjust. You need to look at the data, you need to refine it, and you need to adjust it, right? So if a format already works for you, what you have to do is double down on that format, make it even much better, refine for some of the things where they look that way, the bad things there, refine them, make it better, and all of that. And if the post flops, you don't be like, oh my god, Instagram hates me, TikTok hates me, oh my god, guys, I feel like TikTok shadow ban me, can you go? Don't do that. Answer the right questions. And why did this content flop, right? Is it that I'm having low likes, or am I having low sales? Because a lot of people, when they have like a lot of likes on the content, they're like, oh my god, this is great, people actually are supporting me. But they don't look at the sales, they don't look at the shares, because that's the most important thing. It tells you a lot, right? It tells you a lot of things, right? I see there's a particular client I had was money for a while, right? They had tons of saves, right? In the content can have like 2,000 saves on that content, but zero shares. Zero shares. It was crazy. That was something. Was saying something. I will not tell you that's for content strategies. We'll talk about that one when we have that class. But those metrics, they tell you a lot of things. They tell you so much. There is so much, right? Now, so if a post flop, you ask why. The topic could be the problem, the packaging could be the problem, the timing could be the problem. So this is basically when you understand this circle and when you follow the circle of creation, that's how you build momentum instead of burning out every single time. Instead of like, oh my god, I don't know what to post again. Oh my god, you're just posting the same, like, oh, I don't care. No, instead of burning out, you have momentum. You already know what to do. You already know what to fix. You already know how to go next. You know how to hit even harder, and so on and so forth. So moving on, we have the metric pattern. This is very interesting part, right? So this part, right, what we are going to try to do here, I've highlighted 3 patterns which I believe every single one of us have encountered at least one of these metric patterns that we have seen in our current social media journey, our current creator journey. We are all experiencing at least one. So let's talk about it and what that means and how you can adjust it. So first of all, we might have a lot of high watch time but zero shares, or very, 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 very low shares, where you see content that have maybe 1 million views and like 2 shares or 5 shares. If you have 1 million views, at least you should have at least, I want to say 1%. Right, 1% of a million is about 1,000, I believe, right? Like, that's the least you can have, like at least 1%, right? That's what you want to have, right? So when you have a high watch time like that, you want to have at least 1%, but 1% is also still very low. It's very, very low, but a good number and a good balance, a very, very good balance will be between 3% to 5%, right? Anything within that part, you're good. But it is beyond that. Oh, I shall lose my heart to you. But yeah, so people, what does this tell us, right? So people are watching your video till the end, right? And your storytelling is very, very strong. So you know that you're doing something right, right? Your storytelling is right, is good, and people are actually enjoying your content, but they're not sharing it, meaning that it is not a shareable content. Maybe it is very, 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 very personal, that is not relatable. It's just you just telling people your own part, or it is too niche down to a particular niche, that is so niched to a particular niche, and or is missing a very, very broad hook. You know how I said in the previous classes that you need to, when you want to say something, you need to understand that you're not talking to one person. You're talking to, I think it's in week 4 when we talked about general public. We're not talking to one person. You're not talking to your niche market. You're not talking to your audiences. You're talking to your audiences and anybody else out. So you're talking to your audiences. So you're talking to your audiences and any other person within your, any other person on the internet. So you're talking to the whole entire general public, right? Because it's very hard to say that all the 1 million people that does makeup in Nigeria actually reviewed your content. All the people that does tech reviews, actually, it's not possible. No, some of them will be makeup lovers that actually hate tech. Some of the people will be and fashion lovers that are kind of thinking about tech product, right? So it can never be everybody in that your niche that is seeing that video that make up that high view. No, so it has to reach a broader spec of people. It has to reach a broader spec. And if broader people are saying, even broader has to, your content will reach a broader sphere of people. That's why it's an algorithm. Right? It will keep permutating between different groups of people, between different subset of people. But on the first people that is going to continue now expand and expand and expand and expand and expand and expand and expand. Right, so that's why it's an algorithm. So that's why when you want to create a content, you're not creating for one niche. You're not creating for one niche. You create for everybody. Create for everybody, for a broader audience. Now, how do you adjust this? The first thing is use a relatable angle, like I've already said. Use a surprising twist, right? Something that it still has some sort of, hook, or some sort of, suspense or thriller, or like the word already says, plot twist to it, or a line that makes people think, I need to send this to a friend, or it's something that makes them think of somebody in their life that might be like this, or might want to be like this, or a conversation that had that kind of like seem like they are thinking about. So just something like that. So you need to. That's what this particular thing is telling you. A lot of us definitely have had content that have had a very high watch time, but no saves. Or no shares at all, like nobody shared it or it's extremely low shares. So the next metric pattern that we have is lots of saves but few followers. This is the one that I think a lot of people experience on TikTok a lot. We experience this one on TikTok so much. Like I said, this particular client, they had like 2,000 saves, and their followers were still like below 1,000 followers. So when I saw that, when my clients saw that, they were like, oh my God, like, how do you do this? This is magic. You are amazing. I'm like, I thank you. I guess I would take it, but I still, as a person, I know that there's something that was wrong. We know that something went wrong, and we did not know what went wrong, and we need to go and fix what went wrong. Right? So what does that mean? Is that, one, your content has a lot of value. It is inspirational, educational, and resourceful, which is exactly what that content was. That content was giving so much information, so much clues, but nobody was ready to associate themselves with us, right? So we're giving a lot so much. I was even getting nothing. You didn't get a single nothing. Another one is that people are not following you mostly because they don't see your identity, or what you stand for is not very, very clear. A lot of creators is like that. Now, for business, it's quite different. The calculation is quite different. The understanding is a little bit different. It's read a little differently. But when it comes to a creator, it always boils down to the fact that I can't really tell who you are. I don't think I really connect with you. Like, I just saw your content now, and I kind of like, I like this one. So that's it. But if I see your content again and it's like still reflects to what you have said and made me to like that previous one, I might just give you a follow, right? And that's exactly what's going to happen. Right? Most of the times, you have to understand that most of the time, people don't follow you on the first time they see you. They might follow you on the second time, or the third time, or the fourth, or the fifth time, on the seventh, or the 20th time, right? People may not follow you on the first time they see you. So you need to make sure that that's why it's very important to have your content pillar, your content, your anchor format checked, because that's what's going to keep you producing that same kind of content that people actually love, and then they'll now find it recognizable, and they attach themselves with you, and want to stick with you, right? Now, to adjust this kind of situation where you have lots of sales, nobody's actually follow you on either platform, TikTok or Instagram, you have to first of all strengthen your creator brand itself, right? You have to show your face, show your story, show your voice. They give people a very, very good reason to stick around, stick around with you, and not just for your seats. You see this a lot. This happens when some creators, you see them they're getting like tons of views, so much views. You can see that you know that video is doing well because you've seen that content multiple times. But like, you don't really necessarily like connect with that particular person, because no matter what they say, no matter how good they say it, you just don't find that connection with that person. You see that creator now finally come back and say, I'm gonna answer 5 things about myself. It happens a lot. We see that a lot, and that's because they realize that, oh, people are actually seeing our content, but they are not really like following us. So that is what that means. Now listen and listen and listen well before we go to the last pattern, right? A lot of us can misread all of these adjustments as the solution to their current problem. But do not misread this adjustment. These adjustments are for people who already have this problem, and so this is the solution, right? You cannot, if you have good followers, you don't have any sales issue, and your engagement is low. If you still go ahead and, if you go ahead and apply some of these tips here, yeah, they could work for you. Yeah, they could work for you, but they are not necessarily going to fix all your problems, because the problem is a completely different thing. If you're not having followers, you're not having likes, you're not having saves, you're not having shares, views, nothing, nada, you're not having nada. You need to go back to the drawing board. You need to go and figure out yourself, your creator brand. You need to do the whole journey that we have been taking for the past 6 weeks. You need to do all of that. Now, if you have done everything and you come to this point where you realize that, oh my God, I'm getting a lot of views, because it's going to happen. You're going to see this metric. It's going to happen to you. It's not a thing that is not going to happen. Like, it's going to happen to you. And say you're one of those lucky ones, right? You're going to say, oh, I have a lot of views, but I'm not getting saves. Nobody's sharing my content. Nobody's saving my content. It's just views and views and views and views. It tells you something. And then you fix it, right? Do not go and fix it now that you don't have, right? When your problem is just still very much you don't have a personal brand. So that's why we started from the beginning. But if you've done all of this and you still encounter these problems, or you see some aspect of this already happening for you, you already know how you could have adjusted it or what you should do next. Now the next one is the last metric pattern is strong engagement on story, but very, very weak growth on feed, right? This basically means that your audience, they love engaging with you. They connect with you very well. They engage with you personally. They like you. They know you. They engage with you personally. They will always stand for you. They will always defend you. That's always a great thing. But your stories do not push you to new people. That's what you have to know. People that see your story are people that actually follow you. No other person see your story but your followers. No other person see your stories but your followers. Or people that actually search for you and then they search to check your stories. Those are the people that see your stories. But that consistent views are hugely, if not 80% to 70% to 80% of that number comes from your followers, right? So it just means that your audience know they love you, but it's not getting anywhere. You know other person seeing apart from your followers, right? So to adjust this, you have to turn your best story moment into your reels and TikTok to create content with trending sounds and hashtag to reach beyond your circle. Let me just tell you, this is kind of like the textbook way to fix it, but let me let you know why this is very important. When you have a lot of story, it means that people actually care about you and you're doing something very, 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 very right. Especially when your stories is at least 3 to 5% of your total follower count, right? If this is what you have, it means you're doing something amazingly right. The only problem that you're having is that you're not able to communicate, like you're not able to be as vulnerable and personal as you are on your story in your reels, in the ones you broadcast to the entire world, right? So you just take a summary as, oh my god, I'm gonna be vulnerable. But when it comes to you being out here, they're all boxy and blocked, right? Which honestly and to be very, very true is the way it's supposed to be. But if you're having that high engagement on your story and having a very extremely low engagement on your feed, it means that you're a very, very likable person. You have a very likable personality and you need to portray that a lot more on your content. And so a very good way to do that, because you know that your content is good. If your content is already great, you are doing great in your content. Your content doesn't really, really necessarily have a lot of issue. Honestly, it does have issue, but let's just assume that all is well. So what you should do is those amazing moments that you are sharing with your followers in your stories, you bring them out into your reels and your TikTok. You can even create content. You see people that create content and be like, oh, I asked my followers some questions in my story and they answered this. And you need to make it. And since that content did since that particular content and poll and Q&A did well on your stories, it's gonna do well in your feed for sure. For sure, especially, and again, I repeat, especially if your story interactions are up to 3 to 5% of your total follower count. If that is so, it means that this is going to work. It's 100% going to work, right? So you create a TikTok or a reel on that particular thing. Now, what this tells people is that since people already love it, it's not that it's already lovable, and you have a very, very lovable personality that people actually care about, right? People will want to be part of those people that are going to come and ask you next week about whatever reason it is that, or whatever content you decide to put on that for that reel, or on that your story or your Q&A or poll, right? So that's it, right? This is basically the solution. So please, watch your metrics properly, read them properly. Like I already given you so many numbers that I couldn't put them on this file, right? On this deck, right? There's so much way to calculate these things, right? But as a creator, these are your most important core metrics, right? I spoke about how to understand, your stories. Your story has to be at least at least 1% of your follower count. At least me, I don't think I have 1%. I believe I have 0.1% of my follower counts that watch my story. It's just point to say that I really don't put any effort to it's my own personal page. But yeah, that's also a bad number, but that's not also a good number. It's basically mean that my followers have basically forgotten me because my account has been dormant, which is true. So if your account is not dormant and is active and you keep posting, unless it's what's happening, you are like me getting 0.1. Something is wrong. Something is very, very, very wrong. So yeah, go back to how we've also talked about platforms, how you should post on stories. Go back to the beginning. Go back and rewind the tapes, right? Go back and rewind the tapes. So now let's go to the key takeaway for this particular class. The key takeaway here is that metrics are not here to control you. They're here to guide you. So when you merge your creative identity, which is your muse, and the platform culture and metrics feedback, you are going to create a beautiful growth circle, right? You have your identity, you're putting on the right platform, and you read your metrics, you watch your metrics, and you listen to what it's saying. You take those feedback intentionally. You're going to definitely grow, and that's where every piece of your content becomes even better seamlessly than the previous one. So you just keep getting better, and that's basically the key takeaway here. Please always mix them all together. Look at the flow, look at the circle, and respect it. That's just what it is, right? So it's not here to control you. The metrics, like I always say, your reach, your follower accounts, all those things should not be controlling your mood or detecting anything. It's always beautiful to have feedback, because when you have feedback, it tells you, informs you, gives you every single information that you need to know on what you're doing wrong and how you can be better, right? And that actually brings us to the end of this class. I really want to congratulate every single one of you that's watching this video right now. Um, well done, well done, well done, well done, well done. You have done a great job so far. You have done wonderfully well so far, right? We have done so much. We have talked about so much. We have shared so many secrets. I hope you forget. So we have shared so much insights together, and we've had so much conversation. You've talked to me, I've talked to you. It's been an amazing road, and it's been an amazing journey so far. And we are finally at the end. Whew! Of course, you're not going to end this class without a sprint. What do you mean? We are doing a sprint, of course. And we have our sprint here for week 6, our last very sprint for this cohort, which is to pull out 2 posts from your TikTok and your Instagram and then compare the metrics. We want your last know about metrics. Compare it. What is the metrics telling you? What's the metrics saying? Pull just 2 random posts from your TikTok and 2 from your Instagram, compare them, and then what does each platform reward most about your content? You're going to see that each platform is rewarding something in your content. They're going to always reward you about something, your content. If you have the time, compare all the metrics of all your content. It's great. It's always good. But if you don't, any 2 would do, 3 would do as well. So let's do this. Share your results to us in the feedback form that we are going to be sending in to you guys. I am definitely going to miss you guys. I'm definitely going to miss speaking to you. Definitely going to miss preparing this class. I'm going to miss a lot of things. I'm really going to miss it. I really enjoy this. I really enjoy sharing my knowledge with you, my very little knowledge with you guys. I love it. I love it. And it's so beautiful that this particular class is literally less than 40 minutes, just like our first class. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. It's so beautiful and kind of ironic, because I really thought that every class was going to be like 1 hour. But anyways, glory to God, glory to God. Again, our DMs and our contact details are always open for you guys to come and reach out to us, ask us questions. Even after this cohort session, you can still go ahead and ask us any questions. I'm more than happy to help. From me and the team at CNX Team News and Academy, we thank you and we wish you an amazing, extraordinary success on your creator journey. Bye-bye.